all hear what the preacher said. He said, your arms toward the box, so God learn these words instead. Go to the reflecting, my advice is free. There's a trick to Christian values, and it's compulsory. Stay frosty, that's what the preacher man said. Stay frosty. His words still bragging in my head. Can't control your future, can't control your friends in a world without end. Stay frosty. Hey, yeah. Stay frosty now.
We got selected. Number something something in the top 20, I think number 15 or number 16 in the top 20 for Stay Frosty, which, let me just hide this out of the frame right down here. Excuse me. Hey, that's the Breakfast of Champions. Number 15 or six, is it 16? I mean, I'm eternally the optimist. I'm a permanent optimist. When I go fishing, I take a Nikon and a frying pan. I send out invitations. I start the fire before we even cast the first line. I'm an optimist. So as far as I'm concerned, it was number 15 and somebody else got in the way. There was a voting error, and which is so very popular in America today. I think it's number 16, and it's Stay Frosty, which clearly is the update of Ice Cream Man.
Okay, just tape record everything. Mark, same thing. I don't know if we need the lavalier if we're going right into the board for everything that's here. And this is instrumental to back up my acceptance speech piece for 16th place for this song, actually. In honor of everybody who was once again selected 16th place, reserved it for me. A special place reserved for you. I'm sorry. Is a dog with you? Joking.
The Ice Cream Man was always kind of a, okay, you stand here, you stand there. Always seemed to have it together, because back in the 60s, the Ice Cream Man was always a little bit left of center. It would be the hot rodder or the hipster or the musician or the surfer, particularly on the West Coast. It was the surfer who was filling in for his time, because, you know, driving an ice cream truck, you can do it for an hour, you can do it for a day. You do it for a week, and the restrictions on those kinds of food trucks and so forth 30, 40, 50 years ago was next to nothing. So you had a variety of characters there, you know, driving ice cream trucks. It was something like, well, today landscapers and gardening is a refined art form in Southern California, but that used to be one of the hippie things too. If you didn't want to have a job, but you had to have a job because you had to pay for your space in the loft, then you became a gardener. And you drove a truck, you know, you got a pickup truck and a couple of lawnmowers and a couple of your buddies, and it was like fabulous furry freak brothers. And you go mow lawns. It's the essential of like being in high school. Go, hey, Mrs. Johnson, need your lawn mowed? $2. Well, just take that, multiply it times. Dude, we got to make the rent somehow, because I am not moving back home. You know what? My sister's brother drives a fucking ice cream truck, dude. Silence. No, I mean, that's what you could do for a living, man. And you have a Jeff Spicoli moment like Ridgemont. And I go, dude, I could get so good at it, I could have a fleet of ice cream trucks. Dude. You follow? And so ice cream truck drivers were a little bit left of center, particularly back in the 60s. And college kids would do it, you know, you work your way through school and stuff, and particularly the hippies. You had all kinds of borderline, you know, you'd take your hair and hairspray it back so that when you were away from home or you were away from school, I went to boarding school for a little while, you'd have your hair like this. When you go wash your hair and don't put no hairspray, it comes down to here. And you can do that at an ice cream truck because there's no boss driving around with you, right? So driving in an ice cream truck was cool. It's like working in a fucking surf shop. And that was the only thing that was better, you know. And the guys, you know, you wouldn't have to do anything with your hair, etc. Consequently, I'm your ice cream man because Pasadena was also where integrational busing started right after Alabama. They're doing a documentary on Muir High School right now because that's where Jackie Robinson, first ball player, really a black ball player, came from. And I was on the buses for integrated busing. So everything that we were listening to and dancing to and grooving to was black and Spanish speaking. Yo hablo suficiente, but no también, you all know that. And man, you know, we were listening to Superfly at the prom. Across the street, Van Halens were listening to The Who and Led Zeppelin, so there was always a collision of musical and cultural friction that resulted in really colorful, interested, hybrid kind of music. A lot of hybrid arguments, too. Nevertheless, when you say, okay, well, who were your heroes growing up? What did they look like? Well, the whole moniker Diamond Dave comes from, well, I was going to black high schools. It was 99% black and Spanish speaking. So I had pants up to here with suspenders. And I had, you know, shoes like this, but two-tone, right? With the kind of socks that you kind of like, you could see through them a little bit. And, you know, I would, you know, wear a matching jacket, whatever, and put a little shit in your hair, you know, because you knew the chicks dig that and everything. And they'd say, look at him, Diamond Dave, sparkles like a diamond. Because I would go across town to the local high school, Pasadena High School, where the Van Halens were. And that was right out of Ridgemont High. That's all blue jeans and hands in your front pockets, you know, and hair down like this. And bro, have you heard the new Who album? Dude, Zeppelin. Dude, are you going to see Sabbath? Bro, are you going to Aerosmith? And I revolved neatly between both worlds. So, if you take Superfly and you put him on the field in a football uniform in front of an ice cream truck for roughly 6 to 8 summers in a row, what do you got? You have an adult who looks like me right now, staying frosty, baby.
Stay frosty in a world without end. Stay frosty. Like that ancient immortal said, don't want him to get you go, don't show him where it's hid. And that's just what I did. Stay frosty. Woo! Look out! Stay frosty now. Use my hand, I won't look. Uh-oh! Woo!
Growing up in my house, there was one expression that my father used routinely, and that was, stay cool. I'm not sure if he got it from West Side Story or if he had gotten it actually from the military. I never got around to asking him, stay cool, man. It's like the song in West Side Story. Do-do, bop it, da-be-da, bop it. Stay cool, boy. And that was the overall, stay cool. That was the empirical umbrella in our family, no matter pretty much whatever it was, stay cool. Other families had expressions like soak it. Well, Mom, this and that, and it broke off it. Soak it. In my family, it was stay cool. Now, my father was a surgeon. He was an eye surgeon,
And for actually the last 25 years of his career, he worked in the Ivy League prison system, Folsom and San Quentin, Vacaville, Corcoran, all of the famous names on the West Coast. But the kind of medicine that he loved the most was emergency medicine. And he always described that to me before I was even a teenager. Emergency medicine is the most needed, it's the most necessary, it's the most where you will get to use all of your skills and all of your capacities, including psychological and psychiatric, your people skills, as well as your medical skills. And I never forgot that. My first job out of high school was working in surgery in Southern California. I worked the night shift just on the edge of South Central Los Angeles, East LA. So we had all kinds of folks coming in. There isn't any kind of surgery that I didn't assist during. This was in the very early 70s. And the first time that I heard the update of Stay Cool was when we were working on some of our boys, the Marines, who were coming back from Vietnam. This was around, well, this was specifically the summer between 1972 and 1973. Stay frosty. And in the music business, I can't think of a better axiom. Today, I have several tattoos. The most important is right here on this hip, ready to draw at any time, is that expression in Latino script to demonstrate my Latino heritage. Did you know my mother was Mexican? Well, she's not Mexican. It says Stay Frosty right here. And then, of course, over on this side, I have the trace outline of a .45 caliber automatic chambering pistol, full size. Kind of a yin-yang thing I do. Stay frosty, yo.
Stay frosty in a world without end. Stay frosty. Work hard at this, my friend. Look beyond the kung fu fighting. God is love, but get it in right. Stay frosty.
A lot of kids know exactly what they want to be when they grow up, from a very, very early age, rather, you know. Son of a fireman routinely wants to be a fireman. The daughter of a doctor these days wants to be a doctor. I always knew what I was going to be. I declared it at the dinner table probably before I was even 7 years old. I was going to be black. And I was going to, I'm getting a little bit closer. Did you guys know actually that members of my close blood family, two of my grandparents are black. Actually, they're not, but I've always felt they should have been. And there has been friction. This is not the place to work it out. Anyways, I'm not kidding though. Ever since we were standing in front of Soul Train with my sisters, I discussed that. Not long ago, you know, and all the moves and demonstrating for my sword teacher in Japan in full gear. You know how we wear those big pants and, you know, the big heavy top and all that stuff and everything. Going, no, let me show you how the Temptations dance. I'll show you guys later in a second. The Temptations do, they up on the toes and down, up on the toes and down, up on the toes and down. And then, look, there comes the hands. Those are Temptation hands. Well, how do you know those as Michael Jackson moves? They're not. They're from the Temptations. And so when you talk about Ice Cream Man, well, you're taking a familiar icon, something that is quote-unquote relatively harmless, and giving it a little bit of a seamy underbelly, giving it a little something, a little pencil mustache like Jimi Hendrix had, and who got his idea from Little Richard, who might have gotten his idea from Ike Turner. These are allegations. Nothing's ever been demonstrated. Not to anybody's lawyer's satisfaction, but you get that little pimp brush, like that little soul patch right there, like this. And then you can make it almost sinister when you go, "Summertime's here, baby. Need something to keep you cool." And you can give the Ice Cream Man a whole different, contrary side to it.
All my flavors are guaranteed. To citizen fall.
So Ice Cream Man was done in very easy, simple blues style, but translated beautifully into when the band strikes up, and that's, I don't know, West Texas, East Texas boogie, somewhere in Texas. And when the band strikes it up, well, that's everything from Savoy Brown to ZZ Top, and it was a lot of ways that we made a living doing 5 45-minute sets a night. You had a choice. You're either funky, 4 on the floor, like Walk This Way, or what have you, or you play the boogie, which is closer to all that old school kind of rhythms and stuff that you see on that big band movies, that black and white, that were on Saturday mornings. So it makes sense for the band to play that kind of material because it sounds big and fat. Lyrically though, we change as we grow up, and I thought Stay Frosty is a sentiment that you might say to yourself not so very often as you might expect when you grow up watching hip-hop videos and you hear the expression stay frosty, for example. In these mean streets, man, the harsh and brutal realities of the hood, etc., man, you got to stay frosty. In fact, you got to have cop's eyes. In New York City, cop's eyes. I mean, you know that everybody's lying all the time. Maybe even yourself. This is the city. There's a million stories here. Mine's just one of them. My name's Roth. I was working the night watch out of Juvenile. Anyway. You have to stay frosty here. But that's kind of, that's sort of expected. More often than not, in New York City, which is where I wrote the song, I wrote the music and the lyrics for this tune. This is my classic flat picking, it's called. And I believe it's called flat picking because you have your hand flat over the strings and you put that little finger right on top of the board there. I'll sit up here, and then you move. You just keep your fingers there. You don't drape it across like you would in flamenco, like so, but you keep it flat picking like on a banjo. And that's flat picking. And I wrote the song and started using that expression when I thought it to myself one night a bazillion summers ago. Well, I don't know if it was still the nighttime, but it was at about 6:30 in the morning. And this memory coincides beautifully with our recent victory with Rolling Stone. This amazing trophy for 16th place. It looks a lot like a beer can, but it's not. It's a symbol of a lot of people's hard work and effort, especially in. Because without him, you wouldn't take it on. That's for fucking sure.
Far and wide, far as you ramble, trust in our love, but tie up your camel. Stay frosty.
I went and visited my mom. She's in the retirement home now. God bless her. She's still, fully all lucid and all there. And I had given her, she was in bed, and I had given her a stereo, a little, like a tape player for a cassette player. We have batteries. It has a radio, built-in AM/FM radio, to put it next to her bed. And I was sitting and speaking with her, Love her to death. And I happened to be looking over, she was talking on the phone, and I was looking over her shoulder at this little stereo, because that little stereo had quite a history in it. For starters, it was the shoulder motor, I call it, because you can put it on your shoulder, and that's what compels you through the day, you know, depending on what kind of shoes you're wearing at that point in your life. If you're wearing high-top Converse, this is what will this is the wind that will fill your sails coming out of those speakers. If you graduated to working in the garage, well, that stereo goes up on the shelf. And you set it to 10-10 winds and you wait for customers. If you're me, it sits down by Russell the dog, and, you know, it plays your favorites until somebody goes, 5 minutes, Mr. Roth. And whether that's a production manager or a defense attorney, it's either way, you bring a little stereo with you, and it goes into the backpack. It sticks out on the edge, whatever. But more importantly, is when you ride a bicycle inner city, and, you know, maybe we'll go through this at some point, you want to update the bike. What you want to do is you want to get cruiser handlebars, like at the beach, so you can sit up straight and tall. Get a big dog nose seat, looks like a dog's nose, that big mushy seat, so you're nice and comfortable sitting up taking the scenic route. And then you get the stereo, and you bungee cord the stereo onto the back of the book rack. Don't use headgear, because you want to hear the bus that's about to kill you. You want to hear the lowrider with that killer hip hop Puerto Rican whatever the fuck it is sneaking up on you, who's about to run you over because they got to make the yellow light. You understand? You want to hear the ice cream truck who's about to back into you while you're sitting there eating your bomb pop on your bicycle with one foot on the curb, hello, etc. You want to become part of the neighborhood, wherever the neighborhood is, particularly if there's traffic within inches of you. That being said, the best way to do that is to bungee cord your stereo to the bike rack, the book rack, rather, in the back of your seat, and then you hear the music, but you can hear all the traffic. You can hear everything that's going on around you. I was living on 2nd and 17th, which is in the demilitarized zone, just north of the border between downtown and uptown. Downtown is where all the action is in New York City. And there were probably half a dozen strip clubs, all within simple bicycle distance from where I was in my little apartment. And at this point in time, it was summer, as I recollect. It was July and August. And this was my first time of really living in New York City. I'd just broken up with my girlfriend at the time. And I was using the strip clubs like a lot of soldiers use the USO, the Officers Club or whatever. And I would ride my bike to one of the clubs. And if it was raining, for example, I would have my rain suit on, or if it was snowing, I would have my snow suit on, because this went on. Once I discovered the process and the mechanism of how this all works, I did it for a whole lot more than one summer. And like it's like James Bond, when I think it's in Dr. No or Thunderball, where he's in a one of those old black wetsuits, you know, that's really shiny old black rubber, and he comes out of the ocean and he takes it off and he's got on a tuxedo and walks into the casino. I never forgot that scene. So, you know, I would ride my bicycle, because I'm like health conscious, you know, and I would ride, not, you know, completely. You know, that's like I went to Bally's Total Fitness, and I said, look, I don't need to be totally fit. I'm a rock and roller. Do you have like Bally's partial fitness? I mean, you know, because I'm not going to quit drinking, or, you know, just to be serious. With that in mind, I would then you know, everybody likes rock and roll, you know, and all the door guys of most of the clubs of the earth, if you make your living around, you know, if you're in the gym all the time, if you carry a gun to work, if you're a tough guy, or what, of course you know Van Halen music. Of course you know what we do for a living, especially if you're police, military, security, or whatever of any kind. If you have a confrontational hair on your bottom, you of course know who we are. That goes for all the gals too. You know, we are the spirit of talking back. And so I would deposit my bicycle. I put my you know, my rain suit, whatever, in the backpack. Tip the door guy handsomely. Go in and hang out with the girls. And you know, we would be. I think Dr. Drew would call it coupling. Or we would call it at that point hooking up. And I knew the routine. It didn't take me long, but I had to learn the routine. I would have to take one of the girls back to her apartment so she could change and clean up or whatever. And so what we would do is at 2 o'clock in the morning, excuse me, 4 in the morning, which is in New York City, that's the drinking hours. It goes until 4 in the morning. She would come out and she would get on the back of she would sit on the stereo on the back of my bicycle. And we would go through the silent, empty streets. It was like a Broadway play, like something from West Side Story. Silent, empty. Sometimes it had just stopped raining and the streets were all kind of wet and reflecting the lights. It's really silent, you know. And it has that jungleness kind of humidity and heat. It's just t-shirt weather, whatever. You have a really pretty girl sitting on the back, you know, and I remember hearing that music of, because she was sitting on the speakers. And and as I gaze across my sweet mother's shoulder, her bedridden shoulder, and I look upon that stereo and I see the curvature of where the encasement for the speakers is. And I reflect back as an adult now that those speakers saw more fine booty than the ladies' room toilet seat at Ford Models, arguably, for 3 summers in a row. Now it entertains my sweet mother. I tried to actually tell her this story at some point, but I think she thinks Stripper Butt is actually a band at the Coachella Festival this March, which if it isn't, it should be. And it's all as it should be. Love you, Mom. Always will, right here on The Roth Show. Stay frosty.
Cool.